Well, thank you, everyone. I would like to introduce our panelists, Mr. Melvin To. Please get on stage. He's the Vice President and the Chief Scientist Officer from CK Life Sciences International Holding. We have Anthony Cote, Director, Bureau du Quebec at Hong Kong, Acting Director, Quebec Office in Hong Kong. And last but not least, Mr. Hendrik Rosendahl, Director of the Globe Sustainability CLP Holdings Limited. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining. It's my pleasure and my privilege. You want this back? Okay. It's my pleasure and my privilege to have this panel about ESG, about life sciences, energy transition, as well as sustainability. Before I get started, I would like to introduce, get each of you introduce yourself. I think that will be the best for you to do, more than me. And also, one quick question. If you can, have a power to make a change, what will be your green dream? Hendrik?
All right. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to start off. I'm Hendrik Rosenthal from CLP. I run the sustainability function for the group. And that means I take quite a close look at our performance from a sustainability perspective. I prepare reports, which is really what I should be doing right now. It's our reporting season. But also provide advice to the senior management on what does sustainability mean in practice for the group, what sort of risks do we have within our business, what sort of transition elements do we need to build into our business strategy. I'm from Toronto before Hong Kong. I'm from Ontario, so there we go. And I used to spend quite a lot of time with the Chamber as well, so I very much appreciate sort of a comeback here today and joining this 10th edition. I was there when we did the first one some time ago.
Thank you. You haven't answered my question. What is your green dream, Hendrik?
We got to make this real. This is business. This is not a nice thing to do or a nice thing to have. This is not a tree-hugging activity. It's about finding the business case, and then we can all make progress on this.
Thank you. And Anthony?
Merci. Bonjour, je m'appelle Anthony Côté, je suis le directeur par intérim pour le Bureau du Québec à Hong Kong. Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm currently acting as the director of the Quebec Government Office in Hong Kong. The Quebec government, we have a really strong presence abroad. We're present, we have more than 30 representations across the world in different cities, including general delegation, bureau, and trade offices. In Asia Pacific, besides Hong Kong, we have a presence in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Qingdao, Mumbai, Singapore, Tokyo, Seoul. So as you can see, we're present in many places across Asia Pacific. Now about my green dream. My green dream would be that all the energy that is consumed and all the energy that is produced in the world come from green, renewable, carbon-free sources. That's a dream, and I think nowadays it's more important than ever. I think in Canada, last summer in Quebec especially, we experienced, I think, very strongly the effect of climate change with the forest fires. So I think it's very important to act on this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Merci, Anthony. Bienvenue à Hong Kong. And Melvin?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me here. My name is Melvin To. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer for CK Life Sciences. I'm not Canadian, I'm Singaporean. I've lived in Hong Kong for the past 16 years. So CK Life Sciences is a pretty diversified life sciences company. We're part of the CK Hutchison Group. Our business areas are in healthcare as well as in agriculture-related businesses. So in healthcare, we do drug development, we do diagnostic R&D, and then we also have quite a number of manufacturing operations for nutraceuticals as well as commercialization of nutraceuticals. Thanks. Oh, my green dream. So the dream for me would be that we have a future where healthcare practices can be sustainable, where the focus is really very much more on health promotion, preventive medicine, and diseases can be, diagnosed early, detected earlier, and treated earlier as well, with more cost-effective treatments, because the cost of healthcare is really getting astronomical.
Thank you, Marvin. A bit about myself. I'm Bowie, based out of Hong Kong. I'm a woman with many hats. Mainly, I'm in the venture investment space. I do direct and indirect investment. Directly under an entity called Mage Ho, I do direct investment, especially with 50% focus in India, with a lot of technology early stage startup. Indirectly, I am a partner of a VC fund called True Global Ventures, and the fund specifically focuses on blockchain, Web3, and AI. And we have many unicorn under our portfolio companies including Animoca Brands, which is from Hong Kong, and their subsidiary Sandbox, Forge, Ledger, etc. So very glad to be here. To talk about the green dream, I was talking with Anthony, Hendrik, and Marvin earlier. Did you know 3 years ago, before COVID, India has already stopped all the plastic bags, especially in all the supermarket? A whole big country like India with over 13 billion population, one day they just stop all the plastic bags. In all the supermarket that you go, you won't see any plastic bags anymore. They actually force you to use the cloth bag, which either you pay for it or you bring your own. It's doable, man. We can do that too. And we are talking about trash bags and we were complaining about it. This is a bit ridiculous, but I think this is doable. This is my dream, and I think one day we can also, copy and learn from other countries and make that happen. So that's my green dream. My first question goes to Dr. Marvin. What are your current pharmaceutical, biotech, and research and development, and even investment trends? I think, as I mentioned, I'm in the VC space. I'd love to know, the investment opportunities, right? And also, what is being done at the CK Life Sciences?
Yeah, so it's a very difficult time to actually raise money for the biotech industry, and probably for many other industries as well. In terms of investment trends, there are quite a number of medical innovations that we actually see a lot in the news lately. I mean, one of them would be GLP-1 analogs for weight loss and diabetes control, things like Ozempic and the like, right? I mean, these are really, probably in the news every day. You read all about it and how much weight people are losing and all that. So I think that's an area where a lot of investment is going to go into. I mean, beyond just weight loss and diabetes, now there are actually there's actually long-term data that shows that, there are many other healthcare benefits, cardiovascular health and strokes and all that. There are a lot of, sort of improvements in that area as well. So that's one area that I would probably invest in. Other areas would be advanced medical therapies. These would be the cell therapies, the gene therapies, the cancer vaccines, right? I mean, mRNA vaccines, everybody knows about mRNA vaccines. Now, beyond just COVID and other infectious diseases, people are applying the same technology to treating cancers. So I think that's a space to actually watch out for as well. And the last thing, again, a lot in the news would be artificial intelligence in healthcare, right? I mean, we read about this again every day. How can AI be applied in healthcare for drug discovery, for healthcare implementation, for diagnosis of diseases and things like that, right? I mean, there are a lot of potential benefits. There's also a lot of concern and fear about, what AI can do, right? I mean, I think the attitude that I have would be to believe in it, embrace it, but at the same time realize its limitations, and also always verify, because AI can make up nonsense, right? A lot of these systems actually just make up artificial information, right? A lot of fake news coming out of AI as well.
This is interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Oh yeah, what do we do at CK? I should probably just add, in CK itself, we do R&D for cancer vaccines. A lot of our investment is in cancer vaccine R&D, in cancer diagnostics as well, and we also do dabble a little bit in AI as well. We have some collaborations with companies like XTELPI that are specialized in AI for drug discovery. So we use AI, we embrace AI for developing new drugs, vaccines in particular.
Yeah, it's very, I guess, expertise, centric, right? You got to have those background knowledge in order to screen those potential projects. I bet must be quite challenging. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Next question is all about green ESG focus, right? My next question goes to Anthony. What measure will Quebec take to achieve carbon neutrality, particularly for the transportation sector, and how can this effort contribute to decarbonization on the global scale?
Good question. Before answering, perhaps I'd like to share a few elements of context. I think that it's very important to share, and actually very few people know about this, but Quebec is currently the state or the province in North America that has the lowest greenhouse emission per capita. I mean, this is something to be proud of. But I think we can do much better. Quebec also aims to reach, as you mentioned, carbon neutrality and we want to reach it by 2050, just like Hong Kong. And in order to do so, we will have to do a lot of effort regarding road transportation, because it's our main source of greenhouse emission at the moment, about 34% of total emissions in Quebec. And that's even if right now we have the largest market for electric vehicles, also have the largest charging network. More needs to be done to put those numbers down. There are measures that have been announced. There should be more than 115,000 new fast public recharge station that will be installed in Quebec, I think by 2030. Also, we plan to ban the sale of new gasoline light vehicles by 2035. So that should help reduce. But at the moment, I would say the core or strategy in Quebec, what we really focus on at the moment is the development of the car battery industry. It's recently been a very, very, very big focus for us in Quebec. We want to. It's happening right now as we speak. We hope to be. We're launching this industry. We'll go from mining to recycling to building the key components, and we really hope that we'll be able to become a world-class supplier of batteries for the auto industry. And when talking about those effects being not only beneficial for Quebec but for the world, I mean, those batteries, they will be exported outside of Quebec as well, especially to the North American market. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. You know, energy transition is all about changing all these fossil fuel-based energy into sustainable energy, like solar, like wind, etc. Right? My next question goes to Hendrik. As a powerful, like CLP, a power utility that has operation across, regions in APAC. How does CLP establish its energy transition strategy while navigating and balancing the different regulatory landscape of the jurisdiction? It's tough, different country has different rules and regulation, right? And in which it operates, and the key challenges that you face.
Well, thanks for the question. From CLP's perspective, so just by context, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with CLP. We are an electric utility. Our home is Hong Kong for over 120 years. But we've invested across the region, including in Australia, in India, mainland China, in a mixed portfolio of assets. So our core business is sending electricity to customers via generation and distribution and transmission. We are also increasingly looking at energy services to enhance energy efficiency amongst our customer base. So all these markets are very different in terms of the regulatory backdrop and what sort of opportunities we have for generating zero carbon electricity, as we prefer to call it. So if I compare that with our good friends from Quebec, we just don't have hydropower in Hong Kong,
Right.
actually. We are not endowed with large rivers that can give us this opportunity to generate electricity. So we are limited in terms of what are the options for making sure this panel, which is very warm, by the way, perhaps unreasonably so, gets lit up for everyone and the lights stay on. Perhaps this could be more energy efficient. But the point is, in terms of the sources of electricity that we have, we've been running on coal for many generations here in Hong Kong. Oil was actually the original source, just like every electric utility around the world, actually. Fossil fuels are the origin of the industry. And the origin of this source of energy traditionally. So the challenge is, and the realization we've had over many years, is how do we get away from that fossil fuel as a core source of that electricity? And here in Hong Kong, we've been working very hard to transition away from coal to gas as being the sort of quasi-replacement for that. Where gas, natural gas, which still is a fossil fuel, has about half the carbon intensity of coal. We have a mixed portfolio. We also have a large investment that we made in the 80s in Daya Bay, which is a nuclear power plant that brings about a quarter of all electricity demand into Hong Kong. So that's zero carbon. We've been switching from coal to gas. We've made a massive investment here in Hong Kong just in the last few years for a gasification, a gas receiving terminal to enable us to really shift away from coal as being a source, a primary source of electricity. And we're down to about 10-15% now in terms of coal actually contributing to the grid. If you go to Ontario, I think they phased out their last large coal power plant some 20 years ago. Again, nuclear, hydro. That's what powers Ontario. Quebec is just hydro, I think, primarily. So everyone has their different challenges just from that very basic starting point of what is the fuel that you have at your disposal. And then there's the regulatory environment on top of that, right? And we're very blessed here in Hong Kong with having a very stable regime to make sure that the power companies deliver on their commitment in terms of reliability and cost and environmental performance. And we've been working very closely with the government to ratchet down that carbon intensity for what we deliver to our customers. And that's just one example. So my purview is actually the group in terms of what is our decarbonization strategy and how do we execute that across the region and how do we communicate that we are actually making a step-by-step, that we're making progress in that regard. If you look at our portfolio in India, renewables is a big piece for us there now, but we did have a large investment some 15 years ago in a coal power plant. And that is really core for the grid. It remains very important for the grid in India to stay online and most likely stay online for decades to come, to be frank. In terms of that demand growth in India, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is very high. And we are building as much as renewables as we can based on the capital that's at our disposal, as well as everyone else in that market. Renewables are coming online as fast as they can possibly can. But the demand growth is so high that we cannot just simply shut down the coal that's still running. So these are the sort of challenges that we're wrestling with. But overall, we ratchet up on a regular basis our commitments to the market. We have targets for 2030 in terms of carbon intensity. For 2040, we have a commitment to phase out all our coal from our portfolio, and by 2050 to be net zero as an organization. So that includes the electricity that we send out, but all the other remaining carbon emissions that come from the business that we operate in.
Thank you for sharing. This is good to know. The objective to meet with zero carbon decarbonation, right? And hopefully we can also educate the general public to do, something similar. And at the end, maybe CLP can consider giving the general public more discount on the electricity, right? I think this is one of the good thing to have. Keep in mind, please. So.
Well, actually, the point I think is that everyone has to do their part. So
absolutely.
We have a commitment to decarbonize the electricity that we send to customers. The customers have a commitment to not waste that precious resource. And that includes investing in energy efficiency, for example.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So my next question goes to Anthony. First of all, before I ask you this question, can you give me a definition of green battery?
Okay, yeah, sure. Maybe first, in very simple terms, first, what's a battery, right? What's a battery for cars? How do you make that? So in very simple terms, a battery for cars usually is an assembly of things that we call modules. And inside those modules, there are many different battery cells And inside those cells, you will find a assembly of the cathode and the anode. And basically how the battery works is that when you push the pedal of your electric car, the electron will travel from the anode to the cathode. And basically, in very simple term, that's how it gets your car moving. Now, what's a green battery? The green battery that we say we hope to manufacture the greenest battery in the world, and that's because all of the energy that will be used in order to manufacture those batteries will come from clean sources. Hendrik has already mentioned hydroelectricity. Actually, 99% of Quebec's electricity come from clean sources, mainly hydroelectricity. I think is like 94%. There's about 5% is air, how do you say, éolienne, windmill, yeah. So that's how we believe we can say it will be the green
Thank you for the
battery.
definition, but how is the Asia-Pacific region and the rest of the world involved in the development of your Quebec's green battery?
Yeah, very, very good question. So this is a major project that is going on right now. It will require billions of Canadian dollars of investment. And Quebec is definitely not working on this alone. It's also obviously working with the Canadian government, which has been a key partner in making that possible as well. But Quebec is also working with major partners from all over the world, especially Asia Pacific. Many companies actually coming from Korea. I can give you a few examples of maybe the largest investments that have been taken place in the last few months. Honestly, it's been I think about a year since it started. So there was this company, POSCO Future, from Korea, and General Motors. They joined force together to build this factory that will help build cathode material for the batteries. This was an investment of about 500 million Canadian dollar. Then you have another Korean company who is investing about 750 million Canadian dollar to build materials for the anodes, the other part for the battery. And then another Korean company, EcoPro-BM, and another one, SK On, they will join together with Ford to build more cathode materials. And last but not least, there's the most recent investment, which is actually regarded as perhaps the largest private investment in Quebec's recent history, is a project total value 7 billion Canadian dollars of a company from Sweden called Nordvolt, who will be building in Quebec a battery cell manufacturing facility. So as I mentioned earlier, there are those cell anode cathode. So there's really a key part of that chain to get all of those put together. It's a very major project that's happening.
So basically, Quebec has a venture arm investing on these green startups and also, develop in Canada. Is that right?
I mean, at this level, it's not, I wouldn't say it's startups anymore. So these are very big company. Quebec is also providing some monies in those projects, but most of the money comes from private sources at the end of the day, because those are private companies who are investing in Quebec, yeah.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. It's fascinating to, just to talk about investment. This is what I do, my bread and butter. So I'm very interested asking questions related to investment. My next question is for Melvin. For you as the Chief Scientist Officer, what role can collaboration and also partnership play in advancing health and biotech innovation and technology?
Yeah. So in the biotech industry, collaborations and partnerships are absolutely crucial, right? I mean, because resources are limited, right? And especially for a company like us, right? We really have not that much manpower and not that much resources available to do a lot of the things we do. The good thing is that we are located here in Hong Kong, and we have access to a lot of, potential contract research organizations, CROs, CDMOs, in the mainland itself. So we do absolutely believe that, we have to work together with these other organizations to help us get our work done, right? So a lot of our work actually is contracted to CDMOs, CROs in the mainland, right? Apart from that, I think by collaborating, you actually are able to share knowledge and expertise that you might have and they might not have, and vice versa as well, right? I think so. Absolutely, the sharing of knowledge and expertise, of resources, and making sure that you sort of allocate your resources carefully and not over-invest in an area that you don't really need that much, right? I mean, if you have suppliers that can do the work for you, that's probably a good avenue to actually do it, right, with them. So for us at CK Life Sciences, a lot of our work is actually outsourced to CROs, CDMOs in the mainland. We do collaborate strategically with certain companies that have an expertise that we really want, such as data scientists, companies that specialize in AI. I mentioned just now that we work very closely with XtelPi, and this is a company that is headquartered in Shenzhen. So this is actually a GBA kind of collaboration. We provide the scientific background behind what we want to do, and they provide the AI expertise and the data science expertise to actually achieve what we want to do, which is to build a platform that will help us design vaccines better, such that they're more likely to induce an immunogenic response in humans. So we are working with XtelPi to do that. And I think XtelPi has done a really good job. I think they just announced last month that they intend to IPO in Hong Kong pretty soon, right? I think they might be the first or the second company that lists under Chapter 18C on the Hong Kong Exchange, right? So I think it's absolutely crucial that we have to partner with other people. We can't do everything by ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. One person can do so much. Together we can build the future. I'm mindful of the time, and I want to open up to questions to the audience. Please do raise your hand if you have any questions. If you don't, I'm also welcome questions from online, so feel free to raise your hand. Yeah. We are running out of time, but I still have a few more questions I wanted to ask, so why don't we just keep the answers short and sweet within 2 minutes so that I can ask more questions. My next question, Hendrik. How is CLP utilizing its power expertise to support government like Hong Kong and communities in driving their own energy transition plans? And also, how does CLP stay up to date with the right technology and innovation to enable this?
Well, we come to these sort of forums to learn. So if there's partners in the room who are interested to share technologies and ideas that enable decarbonization, we're all ears. And this is certainly not the only forum that we participate in. We do have a team that looks at new ventures and research. We do invest in that sort of IP and knowledge that we need to have part of our organization. But in terms of enabling customers in particular, we do have a separate business arm that looks at energy services. And if I can just use an example, cooling as a service has been a successful venture for us here in Hong Kong as well, where we partnered with a company to essentially make a commitment to them that your building will be performing at a certain level of comfort in terms of ambient air temperature. And we will own the chillers, the actual assets that are part of your building, and operate those for a period of 20 years. You will pay us a service fee, but you will not get billed by the meter for that performance. So we get incentivized, actually, as the owner of that asset then, to run that as efficiently as possible, while delivering the outcome that the customer is looking for, which is 22 to 24 degrees Celsius or something like that, right? So it works both ways in terms of us being able to deploy our expertise from an engineering perspective, and then making sure that the customer's needs are met and electricity is not wasted in the process.
Thank you for sharing. Malvin, question for you. You talk about collaboration, opportunities, and all this stuff, but it's also important to get the local governments involved, right? How can governments and regulatory bodies support and also foster the growth of innovation and technology?
So I think the good thing about this is that we are actually witnessing this in real time, right? I mean, we see this happening right now in Hong Kong. I mean, every other day, perhaps, you see what the government is actually doing to try to promote innovation and technology as a new economic pillar for Hong Kong. So a lot of, the government has basically thrown everything behind this, right? I mean, a lot of the budget is actually allocated to this activity. So the government has done a lot, and I think they will continue to do a lot to promote this, because this is obviously a niche space that Hong Kong can play a big part in. So they have policies that promote innovation and technology. They have a lot of financial incentives, right? Both for the companies as well as even for the scientists, right? I mean, a lot of companies that set up in Hong Kong, they can apply for funding from the government to support the employment of scientists, a certain number of scientists for a number of years. See, for example, in CK, we have a number of scientists that are paid for by the government for a period of about 3 years, right? And these are all PhD scientists. So I think that's a big area. Financial support is definitely good for companies based in Hong Kong.
To my knowledge, they pay 30,000 Hong Kong dollars per month as a subsidy for hiring a PhD, right?
PhD right now, I believe, is about 35,000.
35,000, that's good.
Plus 10,000 housing allowance, so it's 45.
Nice.
Yeah, right. I think they need to do this because I think obviously technology is limited in Hong Kong, and obviously. For a number of reasons, the people were not willing to come to Hong Kong. So they need to have a lot of these incentives to attract people back to Hong Kong, or at least attract more of the PhD level scientists to come in. So they introduced this, and I think it definitely is helping. So you see a lot of policies that encourage talent immigration into Hong Kong, talent development in Hong Kong. So this is an absolutely essential thing, right? Because there just isn't enough talent right now coming out of the schools, right? So apart from technology and obviously resources to, the science park, is fantastic. I mean, a lot of infrastructural resources being set up there to support biotech startups. And then of course, sort of promoting this startup entrepreneurial kind of mindset among scientists is also very important, right? Given that Hong Kong now is the second largest biotech fundraising hub in the world, there's really a lot of reasons why scientists should relocate here and do some good work that they eventually could, attract VCs and then perhaps one day IPO on the Hong Kong exchange, right? I think these are all little reasons that you can actually weave a very beautiful story for a company being located here to do R&D.
Yeah, that's good to know. Madeline and I are very close working with Invest Hong Kong also. Beside the funding you just mentioned, Invest Hong Kong also provide tons of supports and resources free of charge. So if you want to get to know them, get in touch with either Madeline or myself. Very happy to connect you to Invest Hong Kong. Last question for Anthony. We talk about, government and support, you represent Quebec, right? My question is, why choose Quebec for the manufacturing the green batteries? And how does Quebec plan to limit the impact of battery production on the environment?
Frankly speaking, I think Quebec has all it takes actually for everything necessary for a company to come and manufacture green batteries. I've mentioned it earlier, hydroelectricity, 99% of our energy coming from clean sources. Those battery manufacturers, of course, they want to make money, but as part of their vision, their goal is to remove carbon emission from transportation. So if they can also remove carbon emission from the manufacturing process, that's something that they're really interested in. Also, to manufacture batteries, you need key mineral resources. We're lucky enough in Quebec to have access to a very diversified range of minerals that are key, like lithium, cobalt, nickel, and so on. There are many of those, and those are necessary, of course, for battery. Another thing, in Quebec, we also have actually some expertise in manufacturing some types of electric vehicles. Not cars at the moment, but things like school buses, industrial vehicles, as well as recreational vehicles. Those are familiar with Canada. They know the snowmobile, to drive on the snow. There's actually an electrical version of that vehicle being manufactured in Quebec. We also have a lot of knowledge when it comes to research about battery. There's over, I think, 850 patents that are battery related in Quebec that are through the academic circles or private companies. And finally, I think Quebec's position in North America, I think, is also very, very good to access, very close to access the North American market, where are all the, like on the east side, where all the cars are being manufactured, but also very close to Europe through the sea route, right? Right through the St. Lawrence River, the deep sea ports is very accessible for Europe. And you've asked about how to make sure to protect the environment as well. I mean, I think besides producing batteries with renewable energy, one key element that we're planning to do in Quebec is recycle a lot of the batteries. We have, there's a company in Quebec right now, they have a technology which should enable them to recycle about 95% of the battery material. So that's, you can imagine, that's huge. So the target is to actually recycle 95% of the batteries that will be made in Quebec. So that will help to protect the environment.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I'm mindful of the time. I really appreciate all our panelists for the insightful sharing. Why don't we just one last quick run to, starting with Hendrik. Can you give us one key takeaway as a wrap up to the audience today?
I think it's where I started from, actually. It is about finding these opportunities, these business opportunities, as my fellow panelists described, or from our own perspective, from CLP's perspective in the energy sector, there's much work to be done. And an electric utility cannot do it on its own. The energy efficiency side of things is so important. And if you were paying attention to any of the global climate negotiations recently, for instance, tripling renewable energy, doubling energy efficiency by 2030 is what needs to happen now for the world to come to terms with the physical impact of climate change, so that we don't go off a cliff. So to me, that just means money needs to be deployed in all the right places, and everyone has a role to play here, and everyone has an opportunity.
I agree, totally agree. Everyone has a role to play. Marvin, one quick takeaway, please.
So takeaway would be investment in healthcare innovation can change the future of healthcare and build for a brighter future, and may also make you very wealthy.
Thank you. Anthony?
Very quickly, I think the key takeaway is that economic development and sustainability can go hand in hand and should go hand in hand in order to build for a brighter future. I think that's the most important.
Thank you for sharing, gentlemen. My key takeaway is get in touch with Madeline. She's the biggest well connector in the industry. So you know her, then your future will be super bright. Thank you very much, and I give them a big round of applause. Thank you.